the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to an awesome episode of the CyberHub Podcast. We've got a lot going on in the world of cybersecurity today, a ton. So yesterday, I couldn't broadcast. Here's what happened. My MacBook Pro went kaput. Yep, my Mac died. And some of you Windows users may now comment and say, if you only had a Windows machine, then you'd be replacing them every 6 months instead of every 5 years. So with that being said, I'm newly equipped, ready to go, hitting the road. Next week, I'll be broadcasting from the Holy Land, and I can't wait to share some of the awesome sites I'll be recording from and some of the great people I'll be speaking with while I'm there. So very excited, very excited about what's going on. So we're going to get into the show today, but before we do, some shout outs, because I haven't done them all week because I've been pre-recording. Scott, Tadius, Eddie, good morning. Karen, how are you doing? Philip and Tom, what's happening in the world today, folks? All right, we're going to have a lot to talk about in the world of cybersecurity. Before we do that, though, my lovely, magnificent double espresso in a new role. Got an espresso machine in the office finally. So coffee cup cheers, whatever you're drinking. All right, let's get into what's going on today, because a lot. One, our friends over at VMware have patched 5 critical vulnerabilities in the Workspace ONE access. The announcement yesterday patches several critical and high-severity vulnerabilities that affect Workspace ONE access and other products. These fixes a total of 8 security holes that are detailed in the advisory itself that affects Workspace ONE access, Identity Manager, or VIDM, which was the previous name, vRealize Automation, Cloud Foundation, and Suite Lifecycle Manager. 5 of the issues were rated with a critical severity with a CVSS score of 9.8, with a CVE of 2022-22954. The first of the bugs is a RCE vulnerability that affects both Workspace ONE and Identity Manager. Now, here's the thing about this specific tool. If you're more cloud reliant, whether you know it or not, chances are some of these tools are being used within your environment, even not necessarily with your full and absolute knowledge. It's critical to get these things patched, right? The communication is critical, but everything else around it is critical. 2 additional severities with a CVSS score of 9.1 were also patched. Those are described again as RCEs. The 2 bugs require admin access for successful exploitation. So while they're severe, unless your admin access is exploited, you're pretty safe with those, folks. So get your VMware stuff patched, get it patched now, because our friends over at Palo Alto as well have firewalls and VPNs that are now vulnerable to the OpenSSL bug. That is kind of, we talked about like Spring for Shell and how that's going to be the new Log4j. I think OpenSSL is going to have, a greater impact. So Palo Alto Networks warned customers yesterday that some of their firewall, VPN, and XDR products are vulnerable to the high-severity OpenSSL infinite loop bug disclosed 3 weeks ago. It took them 3 weeks to disclose this, folks. It's really important to kind of look at the time track of this, because within this 3 weeks, what have they done to really remediate? Why just now? You knew you had OpenSSL within your environment, I'm sure. So OpenSSL did release a patch 2 weeks ago when it publicly disclosed the bug, but Palo Alto still has not. Palo Alto is now notifying customers that they could be impacted, and more to come on that. Mitigation is available for some customers, however, not all. Depending on how you're using the Palo Alto products, some could be MUT, and mitigation may not be very available to you, so that might mean turning it off. So keeping that in mind. Hamas, terror group, a very evil one at that being said. Hamas was the first, by the way, terror group to have their entire cyber unit bombed to live in hell in a military operation during war. APT-C23 is set to be involved in a sophisticated catfishing campaign targeting high-ranking Israeli officials. Beyond the elaborate Facebook-focused social engineering, the group has introduced a new malware, including a fake messaging app known as Volatile Venom, a downloader known as Barbie Downloader, and a backdoor. Here's the thing about Hamas. Hamas is trained in their cyber capabilities by Iran. Iran was trained by the Russians up until we took President Trump at the time took their general off the battlefield, and now they're being trained by the Chinese. So mind you, the Hamas technical capabilities come from Iran through China, through Russia, through one of those groups that is training Iranian engineers and training Iranian cybersecurity experts to get that far. So this isn't the first time Hamas has created a catfishing campaign to target Israeli soldiers, but 18 and 19-year-old kids anywhere with a gun in uniform in a war zone, typically they're going to want to forget about that and look at others. So this in Hebrew here says Mo Yitzchak. She went to the University of Haifa, obviously. And that's how they're starting to catfish Israeli officials and soldiers, having specific targets with very, very good looking women. So very interesting for Hamas. And here we go. So the Cash App notifies 8.2 million US customers of a data breach. You may be one of them. In the 8K that was filed with the SEC, they reported that a breach on December 10th when a former employee downloaded internal Cash App reports while no longer employed at the company. The Block, which is the owner of Cash App, said in the report that the Cash App customer's full name, brokerage account numbers associated with investment activities on Cash App, and even for some, including portfolio values, holdings, and possible trading activities for one trading day. This was reported by TechCrunch, and now the 8K has been filed. If you're the insider threat piece here, you've terminated someone. How do they still have access? How does someone who you terminate, who has access to download those reports, didn't have their access revoked right away? Identity access management, having those controls in place are so important. So critical. And finally, the DOJ charges Russian nationals with operating the world's largest darknet market. Dmitry Oligovakich Pavlov, a 30-year-old Russian national, has been accused of a range of crimes connected to his operation and administrations of servers used to run the Russian dark web marketplace Hydra. Hydra was shut by the German officials just earlier this week, where they seized $25 million worth of Bitcoins. Now the US DOJ is joining the same prosecution. Pavlov, through his company Prompt Service, administered Hydra servers, which allowed the market to operate as a platform used by thousands of drug dealers and other unlawful vendors to distribute large quantities of illegal drugs, illicit goods, and services to thousands, if not millions, of buyers. The charges come obviously after the German Federal Criminal Police Office and the Frankfurt Public Prosecutor Office for Combating Cybercrime said they worked with U.S. officials on the investigation that led to the raid on Tuesday that shut it down. The marketplace was estimated to bring in $5.2 billion in crypto since 2015, folks. That's a mid-range fortune company. Merrick Garland, Attorney General, called Hydra the world's largest darknet market. Here's the thing. Whenever attorney generals talk about this, they've always said this. When they caught the JP Morgan guys, when they caught everyone, they go, this is the largest operation. They've taken down this one. They've taken down another one will pop up tomorrow, and we'll have to deal with that one as well. So, I hope they've gotten the modus operandi. I hope there's lessons learned. You can find all of the stories with all the links, and including the indictment against Hydra, on the Records website and on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. Go check it out there, folks. So that's it for this week. A very, very busy week in the world of cybersecurity. Happy to say that, what is it? Where was that? Windows 11. It's like Mac. You're funny, Tom. Very, 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 very funny. So yeah, nothing that Windows makes is like Mac. Nothing. Not a thing. Couldn't convince me otherwise. And, you couldn't. And I love Microsoft, right? So don't get me wrong. Like, I think Microsoft's made leaps and bounds in their services. But Windows 11, you're not going to convert me out of Mac OS. I am very, very sorry. Folks, that's it for the show today. We'll be back with a lot more on Monday. And I'll be broadcasting from a very special place, the Holy Land. I'll be in Israel next week with some really special shows. So tune in for those. Till then, have a great weekend, folks. Have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.